Hey, I'm Christian Lindholm with managing partner Fjord, Europe's leading cross-platform design agency.
Don't be so modest. You designed the Series 60 UI back in the day, right?
Yeah, I was involved in leading that and starting that. Had the vision of that smartphones should be one-hand operated, and that's still a vision I believe in. That is the fundament of mobility is one-hand operation.
It's funny how Nokia doesn't seem to get that. At one hand, ease of use, uh, you know, smartphone usability. Do you actually get surprised that how fundamentally same the Series 60 or the S60 UI has been for so many years now?
I think in many ways the Series 60 perfected what is kind of thumb and scroll type of UI is. It was what more or less all of those types of UIs became. And then with the introduction of the iPhone, then clearly it was a sort of paradigm shift in many ways. It was full face for the displays, it's direct manipulation, it's finger operation, and in essence it really switched the object from being a telephone into a mini computer.
Right. It's funny because the uh, Nokia CEO was often referring to his N series phones as mini computers, except they weren't as easy to use as a mini computer would be, right? Do you think they actually understand the new paradigm now? Do they understand this touchscreen paradigm?
Yeah, I do think that they do understand that it is a new paradigm, and it's a paradigm of computing, and I think they're doing good and solid work with the MIMO platform. So we've been following that carefully, and what I like with that venture is that it's essentially public R&D, and they are putting out these new devices which are still like sort of macro boards, so kind of designed for geeks and developers, and hence they are you can really see what's the state of the progress. And there's lots of good new technology in the MIMO platform.
Right. Do you think they really have a chance now that we have now really 5 competing platforms, right? You have in the mobile internet space, I just look at the mobile internet handheld computing space. You have the iPhone platform, which is actually the current incumbent, so to speak, right? In many ways. You have BlackBerry, you have Winmo, you have Android, and you have Symbian Series 60, S60, and variants. And then you have another one coming from them in the new mobile Linux. So do you think Nokia can actually stage a comeback and regain attention of developers, of buyers going forward with this new platform? I mean, we are in a very crowded marketplace now.
So I would say absolutely, in that they already have so much investment into that MIMO platform, because they have been, we've seen products for the past 3-4 years now, and it takes 5 years to do a new operating system. It's an incredible hundreds of millions investment to get it right, and you then can leverage that investment for sort of 10 to 15 years. So once that 5 year is under development, then there's probably 10 years of leverage of it. So and in a way, what I think they have, considering being so big, they have in a brilliant way avoided innovators' dilemma by first introducing it without cellular, so that they can really sort of build a computing platform. But competing with Apple, competing with Google, who do not have, particularly Google, don't have legacy in the space, in how you do things. They don't know what's not possible to do. They for them everything is an opportunity, whereas as Nokia as the real incumbent in the space has a heritage.
Right.
And heritage in a way is a dangerous thing, because you think that there is tradition that needs to be sort of kept and nurtured, whereas as when the paradigm changes, then you have to question everything.
So from that perspective, if you're looking at OS over 10-year cycles, so iPhone OS and Android OS actually have 10 more years to go, essentially.
Yeah.
Or maybe 7 years for iPhone, and about 8 years for Android to go over. And then, do you think in those...
But by that time they need to then launch the new paradigm,
Right.
which then probably is again built from scratch, and it's I think that Motorola, for example, wasn't able to do that investment, and when times were good, that is a reason for they basically disappearing from the marketplace.
Right. What about when you look at the marketplace out there, who do you think is the weak link out there? Like amongst all the players in smartphone, mobile, internet phone business, which platform do you think is actually on a weak footing right now?
So the weakest link is probably Windows Mobile, because they don't have mind share among consumers, they don't have mind share in the corporate, and their most important OEM HTC has defected to the Android platform. So they don't have anyone making really state-of-the-art cool hardware. So that's really bad. Symbian is interesting because with Nokia taking control of it, it is totally a Nokia asset, and then what I think what we'll see is that moving now into a lower tier, and essentially what we have defined as a smartphone, essentially something operated with the thumb and in a QVGA type of resolution, a sort of 2 to 3 inch screen. That to me is just a phone now. So the world has moved on, and the native platforms, of course, will be squeezed by Symbian still being able to be open, that you can create rich applications that run in sort of a parallel multitasking type of session.
Right. What about RIM? I mean, BlackBerry. It seems like, despite being a good email-based, device or platform, it lacks a lot of things which make iPhone and Android more interesting to use.
So the RIM, if they are not now well into pouring in money into a next generation sort of operating system, and that means they've invested 100+ million into that type of platform, and if it's not surfacing in the next 2 to 3 years, then they can become a next Motorola or Sony Ericsson, just basically go away.
So you've seen all the various variations of UI for Android. We have Moto Blur, we have HTC Sense, we have Samsung doing its own thing, and LG doing its own thing. Do you feel that that's going to actually be counterproductive for Android versus a single unified experience offered by an iPhone?
So I think it's actually quite beautiful for the consumer in that we have these a platform. So from Google's point of view, as long as there are lots of Androids, they anyway win, because search as a user interface paradigm is quite fundamental, and once the search engines on the handheld evolve so that they provide answers rather than essentially links for further exploration, then search and Google will have a good place. And then but the big question is which flavor will win. And if we look at classically look at ice cream, then 70% of ice cream market is vanilla. So if the other guys are not seriously putting money behind first creating a differentiated user experience, secondly then being able to develop create tools to develop for that flavor of Android, and then thirdly create a sort of financial ecosystem around it through a shop, then they're not playing ball at the sort of Champions League
So
level.
let me interrupt you and step back a little bit. You talked about a new kind of a search experience, right? Is it really search, or the mobile actually needs a whole different way of thinking about content consumption and distribution?
So I think in if we look at the sort of mobility in general, then what everyone is fighting for is what we call in this industry the sort of idle screen, and the idle screen should be a rich, contextually aware place where you can get different types of triggers for actions, and in that experience search is fundamental, because if you have a keyboard, then the keyboard itself in this new paradigm, it makes no sense that generates numbers. So that should generate text, and hence you should immediately start a search. So if you don't see in the screen triggers for desired action, then starting them through a search experience is good. So I've always been a big fan of Quicks, for example, which is a way to do navigation through search. So that type of idle experience, I think, is one fundamental component for it.
What role does location and social graph play in content consumption on mobile platforms?
So I think the ability to understand the context of the user, and hence surface more relevant data at the relevant point and time and place is crucial. So for me Facebook is this other type of plumbing layer on top of the internet, whereas Google provides a sort of search plumbing plus, of course, sort of network and cloud storage. Facebook provides the social graph and essentially kind of a phone book of humanity, which then also has coupled with services for data storage.
Right.
So both Google and Facebook are what I call multimedia banks, where you can sort of store, save, share content.
But that's believing that Google will be able to do a good job of surfacing information, which is fine in today's world. But as we look forward, all these edge devices with multimedia capabilities and super fast wireless connections, you'll be creating more content and you'll be consuming more content. I wonder if the search paradigm actually breaks down in that environment where there is so much information out there that we need some kind of context, like using social graph, for instance, or location as two ways to contextualize content. Have you seen this application called Sherpa on T-Mobile?
Nope, I haven't seen
So
that.
it basically aggregates, places and based on your location and places where you visit more often. So it kind of is almost uses serendipity to surface things you need. And I wonder if we are going to have to go down that path because of the smaller screen size and limited attention span on a mobile device.
So the answer is yes. And that UI we refer to as the kind of context UI, and I don't think anyone has designed the context UI. But my view on it is that the context UI is built around a big now. So and a big now is looking at the present, trying to determine from the environment, from past tasks, from future tasks, and from your sort of social network, what is meaningful to surface, and then surfacing these triggers. And then, as you know, I've been a big fan of timelines. I still think timeline is a fundamental way to navigate information. It's very easy and natural for people to sort of remember things in the context of time. This happened before, this will happen later, and hence that's one element of it. And then the other axis, which I find quite attractive, is this presence, so physical proximity to you, and then also the contextual proximity, so kind of relevance to you. And then when you cross those axes in the middle of that, you then have what I call the now, and then the trick is then to make the now big. So kind of the big now comes from that. So very simple idea, but nobody's done it properly yet.
How far away do you think we are from that paradigm?
We're not far from it. I think Vodafone has done a bold move with the 360 UI, where they turn people into cards with rich context embedded onto those cards, sort them by contextual relevance, and if they have the stamina behind educating the users to start to think like that, I think that's the big question. Who will have the guts to do this new start paradigm and then be able to nurture it? I think if you look at Apple, Apple didn't do a start paradigm. They said, let's build it on menu, which was probably a good idea, because they introduced so many other sort of paradigm shifts, and if they would have done this sort of big now experience, then they could have maybe went over the top and confused people.
The interesting part in this whole thing, I see two major trends going on right now. Apart from the big now being the big focus, I think going forward, the other big trend is the task-specific computing becoming more and more popular. When I say task-specific applications, which instead of being on the web are very focused on doing just one thing. Do you think that actually has an impact on the mobile ecosystem going forward? Like, do you think these apps are a phenomena which is here to stay, or is it going to be gone soon?
So I think apps are just logically clustered tasks bundled into one entity that then is given a descriptive or a marketing name around it. And as task gets more blurred, so in a way you mash up different types of tasks, then the role of the applications will change. And I think it's very visibly seen this when you start to have more than 100 applications on your iPhone, then you won't actually take the time to search for that specific application or search through or browse for that application. You will instead go into the search and then search for that application. And hence searching for the task is plausibly a logical way to go forward.
So how do you see the future rolling out over, like, over the next 5 to 10 years? Like, you clearly have been pretty clear on a lot of things, like the early Symbian 60 work you've done, the navigation keys, and you were very far ahead of bringing web services to the phones when you developed a Flickr client for the Nokia devices and TypePad client for Nokia devices. What next?
So what next? What right now excites me is actually I want to have a sort of companion product. I want to have a slightly larger product in my pocket. I think the iPhone's too small, so I want to sort of see that device grow maybe 15-20%, because what you do on that device is starting to be quite comprehensive computing tasks, and then I feel that by growing it actually will benefit as a device, and it's of course an incredibly delicate balance to strike is how big can you go in the pocket, and as that device start to grow, then the ergonomics of one-hand use starts to disappear, which then in my mind opens up the opportunity for voice to become wearable. So I don't see any reason why we wouldn't have voice as a necklace or voice kind of worn on the body, and particularly as music, thanks to the iPod, has again become so ubiquitous in the white earbuds. So wearing voice and then having music channeled through it, then the control unit can be made larger. But I think the handset vendors are kind of terrified of stripping out functionality and making a really good telephone. It doesn't have to be wearable, but it can just be made smaller.
Right.
So a sort of renaissance of the old Nokia 8210, this sort of red fashion phone. I think that kind of object could certainly be a big hit as a companion product to this web pad.
I have a last question for you, Christian. What are the apps which you are using and are very excited about on your iPhone and on your Android phone?
So I actually now was spending last weekend in New York, and I got introduced to Foursquare, and that whole basic premise of saying thank you and then rewarding the sort of effort with some points plus coupled with the effort of or stimulate by game creating, so kind of getting people to compete. So when you can sort of have reward for action and an element of competition, that will drive usage and behavior, and that type of model can be applied to a range of type of services. So I think that's a great way forward, is to sort of merge utility and game play and competition.
You don't think the automatic check-in, presence, status will become part of the OS itself? Like, you don't need applications like Foursquare?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's just a matter of time when next to the search window we'll have a sort of multi-status posting window where you just say, this is what I'm up to now, and that needs to become more simple in a way to feed this sort of giant network of context.
Great. Thank you, Christian, for your
Thank
time.
you.
I really enjoyed, as always, talking to you, and look forward to talking more.